What is going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. At the beginning of Season of the Wish, we got some changes to the Ballidorse Wrathweavers, that stasis gauntlets that allow us to do a little bit more damage with our super. Now, these right here are able to give us an extra little bit of damage, like I said, from our super, and now it's able to grant our allies as well as ourselves sometimes to stasis weapon surge when we use our Frostpulse, which is when we throw down our rift and slow or freeze those enemies. And then we also gain that ×4 stasis weapon damage after our super finishes, which is super nice as well. So we can do some pretty good DPS with this build, especially with the rocket that I have on and a fusion. It is pretty nice for that DPS, especially when you got a nice long time to do it. So, starting us out right here, we're going to go over our armor mods. First off, we got Thermodynamic Siphon, so solar and stasis weapons create orbs of power for us on those multiple defeats. We're going to be using Dynamo because of that Frost Pulse, so when we throw down our rift near those enemies, we're going to get our super back even faster, and you can see we got that triple 100s with intellect recovery as well as resilience. Now back right here to our Ballidorse. Like I said, the Frost Pulse gains us an overshield, increased damage for that weapon, which is ×2 for stasis, and the same thing after we finish with our Winter's Wraith, we get ×4. Now, for this build, we're using double bolstering as well as focusing strike so we can get back our class ability as fast as possible to continuously use that Frost Pulse. Now on our chest piece, using whatever resistance mods you like. This is what I had for the video, so you can see the damage that we were doing as well as just the resistance for that was arc and solar. Now on top of that, to continuously have a good bit of damage on this build, we are going to be using stasis weapon surge mods. So when the effects of the exotic wear off, when we have that armor charge, we're still going to be getting at least that 12.5% damage increase for the ×2 on the stasis weapon surge, which will just help for that sustained DPS. Like I said, that helps as well with time dilation Reaper to help us get even more orbs of power, so we can have that armor charge and it'll last even longer because of time dilation. Now, for our weapons on this build, we are using the Riptide with Chill Clip, Sunshot, as well as Palmera B. This thing auto-loading Explosive Light will help us with that nice juicy DPS, as well as Riptide right here with Chill Clip just pairs well with the stasis synergy of this build with our fragments and aspects that we have on, plus Sunshot just feels right, partially because we got that solar stasis siphon, and Sunshot is just absolutely juice this season with our artifact mods, which I'll go over in just a second. So this artifact makes this build even better with a few different things. First off, we got Kindling Trigger. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply Scorch to unscorched combatants. We're going to be getting that with Flint Striker. Rapid solar weapon precision hits and final blows grant us Radiant, so that'll be easy with the Sunshot. On top of that right here, well, Radiant increase weapon damage to combatants affected by Strand and Stasis, which is perfect because this build is all about that stasis debuffs with slowing and freezing targets. Next off, we got Pillar of Ice, defeating an encased combatant spawns those stasis crystals, which we will use those to give ourselves some overshield. We got Hail the Storm as well, shattering encased targets and stasis crystals deals increased damage. Shattering those stasis crystals reveals shards that the damage and slow targets, so another way to apply stasis debuffs to those targets, and the synergy of this is super crazy in my opinion. Not last but certainly not least, our abilities, aspects, and fragments. Obviously, we got Winter's Wraith for me, going with that Healing Rift, Strafe Glide, Pronomal Blast. Now for me, Cold Snaps seem to work very good with this build, but also I think Duskfield would be pretty juiced magoosed as well. This thing just feels very, very good. Now for our aspects, we are going to be using Frostpulse so we can cast our Rift to freeze targets. That helps because it pairs with the exotic gauntlets that we are using. On top of that, right here, we are using Glacial Harvest. Freezing targets create stasis shards that are around those frozen targets. The more of those that we get, the better. One, because of the fragment, you will see in a second. Plus, it gives us a little bit of melee energy when we collect them. Now for fragments, we got Whisper of Chains, so we take less damage when we're near frozen targets or stasis crystals, just helping for that end game and survivability. Next off, we have Whisper of Fissures, so we increase the damage size of the burst of those stasis crystals and frozen targets, which you will see they are just absolutely everywhere. Now right here is Whisper of Rime, where collecting those stasis shards gives us that overshield, which will fall off after 10 seconds, but we are freezing, creating stasis shields, creating stasis shards everywhere with this build because of our artifact, as well as Glacial Harvest. And then finally, we got Whisper of Conduction. Nearby stasis shards track to us, which is nice because we don't got to go search them out. We just get that overshield right away. So definitely the way that this build works and that synergizes is right when DPS starts, pop your super and go to town with freezing the target and then shatter, freeze the target, shatter, freeze the target, shatter. That'll give you the most DPS. From what I tested in the first boss of the dungeon, it was able to do about 250, almost 300k more just for super solely without even using my rocket or anything like that. But when you add that addition of the rocket plus the chill clip on our fusion rifle, we're able to do even more damage. And then on top of that, we can get radiant with this build as well because of our sunshot. So the synergy of this for DPS is actually very, very good. You can do a good amount of damage for a stasis warlock for sure. Obviously, there's better things out there for meta DPS, but when we have that stasis surge and get a little 25% extra damage, this build is gonna come in handy, and definitely against champions, some of those smaller bosses like that, you can absolutely wipe them off the face of the earth with the freeze and shatter and the Ballidorse Wrathweavers gloves. So definitely give this build a try. My warlocks, definitely a good season for y'all and the stasis specifically. But again, we got the Apotheosis Veils, which we will be making a build on that as well. So be on the lookout for a Strand and Void one to come. There's already a Solar one out, so I appreciate all y'all again for sticking with me. One-Eyed Jedi on all of my socials. I appreciate you. I will catch y'all in the next one. Peace.